Councilman Erik Anderson, thanks very much for joining us today. We invited your opponent, Carol Sword, to also join us. She was unable to attend. You've been on the City Council in Plantation for 12 years, right?
No.
Oh.
I've been on the council. This is finishing my fourth year.
Fourth year, I'm sorry. Okay.
I did planning and zoning board and firefighter pension board and things like that for probably around 12 years.
Okay, all right. What do you hope to accomplish in a second term that you haven't been able to accomplish so far?
I can remember saying these things. Plantation's at a crossroads 4 years ago, and we still are facing the same challenges. COVID didn't help move the ball along. We've got a lot of growth that was vast majority of the high rises and things that went around that are coming up out of the ground now and finishing now were approved many years ago by previous councils. So we have traffic problems all around our midtown, which is our University Drive and Pine Island, all the way down to 595 and up to Cleary Boulevard. And some say up to all the way up to Sunrise, but that's not quite right. But we kind of, anyway, our midtown, that traffic area, there's a lot of pass-through cars coming from Sunrise and further north down to 595. We got a lot of traffic to solve. And we really got to take a hard look at what we're doing with the development. So I'm not anti-growth, but it's got to fit. It's got to be right. The city has to need it before we can approve something that's further going to strain our resources until we fix the traffic problems and maintain our quality of life.
Okay.
Can I add on to that?
Yes, sir.
You said in your questionnaire that that too many rentals mean less people put down permanent roots in the city, and that there's a huge growth in rental properties, and you listed that as managing appropriate responsible growth as one of your three top issues. Mm-hmm. Another of your top issues was affordable housing. Mm-hmm. And you said it's a nationwide problem, et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't have rentals, significant amount more rentals, how do you address the affordable housing problem?
So first off, there was thousands. I mean, there's thousands. I don't have the paper in front of me, but I did have it last night. Thousands of rentals approved by the prior councils that are all coming online now. And then the current council has approved a few buildings. One of them, though, was condo. I would prefer it be condo just to balance out. I mean, literally 90% of the things approved in the last many years have been rentals exclusively. And I would prefer that still maybe approve the building, but make it condo, because it's changing the fabric of we're much more transient now and we're much more dense, and we're also mostly built out. So there's not even a lot more to choose from to build the properties. Basically, developers want to repurpose office building areas to rezone it as residential. And we're getting a huge pushback from residents that we don't want to lose our Class A office space area just to put in more rentals. So affordable housing is a challenge, but we have put a lot of capacity into our city. So I don't know. How did you phrase the question, Daniel? You just how to reconcile the two? Right.
The way you address affordable housing, but the most obvious way is to build more affordable housing. But to that point, affordable housing tends to be rental apartments. So if you don't want more of those, but you also want more affordable housing, it seems like a pretty
we really doesn't have much area left. Eventually, I assume developers are going to want to attack the Broward Mall to do something. No one's ever come to me, but it's obvious it's the center of the town, and they're going to want to come for something like that. And there's the 8601 property up off of Sunrise Boulevard. It's the old AT&T building, and they came to us to want to build a massive rental, way oversized, way taller than out of character for the area, way bigger than what's currently there, and we did not approve that currently in its form. So we've already built the capacity. We've built out. The past council has approved thousands and thousands of rentals. But they're all coming online now. We can't do much more. We don't have the space, Daniel. So it's a nationwide problem. And affordable is not even possible, because any of these things, even if you build all these apartments that are coming online, you need over $100,000 a year income to afford the rentals that are being built, which is not affordable. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I can solve it, because the nation can't solve it. and we can't give enough money or print enough money to fix it because that'll inflate other things.
Tell us a little bit more. I'm interested. Tell us a little bit more about the dynamics of the redevelopment plan for the 8601 West Sunrise Boulevard, the old AT&T building. What was it that the city found objectionable there specifically?
Well, it wasn't the city as an entity. It was the council, and I'm not in the heads of each of them, but
Okay.
I think all of us voted against it, or most all of us voted against it. Look, they're taking around a 2-story office building and wanted to go, and I don't remember what the final floors were because we kept on trying to push them down, but it was around 5 or 6 stories, several towers, and an office building. So massively upscaling what was there in size. There was going to be over 1,000 parking, I think 1,100 parking spaces. So and losing Class A office space. We can't keep building places to live if you're not going to have places to work to balance it. And that is zoned office. So
Right.
I can't, I'm not in the head because of sunshine law. They can't talk to me except for what on the dais, up there. I think and then we had massive opposition. There was virtually no one in favor. We had massive opposition from residents all surrounding it and along the Sunrise Boulevard corridor.
Okay.
And just
All right.
basically that it's too much. It's just too much. They're asking for too many waivers, zoning changes. They just went for the whole everything. And I don't think the council was ready to do that deep, that much bending over backwards.
Okay, and tell us briefly, we touched on this briefly in conversation, but boy, the Broward Mall property, okay?
Yeah.
Broward Boulevard and University Drive, the southwest corner of that intersection.
Correct.
And I mean, when the Broward Mall opened, I know it was eons ago, but that was a major, major step forward for Broward as a community, really. I think it opened in 1980. But
Yep.
Why? Plantation's a big, strong, dynamic city and perfectly located in the middle of South Florida. Why can't that property be redeveloped?
Well, it can be. It can be. What are you asking? But you mean as a
I'm-
mall or as
I'm
something
asking
else?
why it seems to have it's been sort of persisting as an eyesore for quite
Yeah.
some time.
Because it was Sears. It's the Sears end, the north end, which faces Broward Boulevard. Sears, Seritage Properties. We had massive plans to build 2 stories of entertainment, high-end restaurants, mid-end restaurants, mid-tier, an adult arcade, probably like a Dave & Buster's, was all going to be there. We went through many, many meetings and design, and we literally hashed out what the aesthetics and where landscaping and all that stuff. And then COVID hit, and the bottom dropped out of malls, and the bottom dropped out of restaurants. I mean, gone. It was locked down. They couldn't go to them. So Sears, that was already struggling, and these restaurants that were going to be moving into the area, they saw no market for it, at least in the short term, and so it cratered.
Okay.
And we don't drive. The investors have to come to us and tell us what they want. We are open. We are open and ready to hear proposals.
All right, very good. Yes, very good. But Plantation's one of 2 communities in Broward County with a strong mayor form of government. I've got a couple of specific questions about the incumbent mayor and about the race for mayor, but I want to ask you generally, Erik, is the strong mayor form of government working well for the residents of the city of Plantation?
I believe it is. It always has, and I'm a lifelong resident. I'm coming up on 55 in just a few weeks. So literally 55 years living in Plantation. I've seen it go from horse pastures and cow pastures and citrus groves to the Broward Mall and to Albertsons, and I've seen it change. But all through it, we've had long-term residents who were deeply invested in their community, who became the mayor, and most of them were mayors for a while. They were reelected because the residents believed in them, and I think our return on investment, our taxes are on the lower end, but the shape of our city, what we return back, is on the higher end, which means we're good stewards of public money. I think the strong mayor form has worked well for us. I really do. Because you see, you have some pros and cons with both forms, other forms. City managers, there's some horror stories with city managers out there. Anyway, I think the strong mayor form has worked. Sometimes you could get where the mayor might make a lot more changes than the past. And with change, there's struggle until people adapt. We did go through a little bit of that with Mayor Stoner coming in, but I think we've adapted. A lot of department heads were let go, and she put new people in, and we've adapted. Some of them were promoted from within, so we did know some, but there was a lot of institutional knowledge lost with some of the changes. But we've adapted, and overall, I still am a proponent of the strong mayor in Plantation. Yes.
Okay. Well, of course, your colleague Lynn Stoner is running for re-election as mayor, and another colleague, Nick Sorrell, is challenging her. Have you expressed a preference? Do you have a preference in that race?
I am not going to step into endorsing either one. I think they're both, they both definitely care about our city. They really do. They both are working hard to get elected. And I want that. May the best person win, because I want someone who cares deeply about our city as much as I do. I want them to fight for our city. And, so I'm not going to endorse because I don't want to lose votes on either side. Right. I do have a personal preference that I'm not making public.
Okay.
But I think they're both passionate about our city. They both have paid their dues. They both are experienced. They both have a long-term living here. So they know the issues. They both can lead our city, and I think we would be okay with either one, but I'm not going to endorse.
You're a career educator, right?
I am.
You're still a principal at Davie Elementary School.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, great. That's interesting. So you're well positioned to comment and to provide some reflection on the important relationship. You've got a massive amount of families in Plantation with young kids.
Yes, sir.
And we've got the 6th largest public school system in the United States. How's the relationship? I know you teach in another community, or you're a principal in Davie, but I think the question is still a good one. The relationship between the city of Plantation and the Broward County School District.
Between the district, Broward, and I don't want to wade far off course, but Broward Schools is in a lot of turmoil with the 5 board members being put off and new ones installed. So the district as a whole is definitely in flux right now, and a new superintendent. So that's got to settle down. But I can tell you the relationship of the city to the schools in the area is great. All the council members and mayor have a relationship with the schools. We visit the schools, we support the schools, we go to their events, we invite them to our events, both the Chamber of Commerce events and the city events. And we have a lot of kids attend, a lot of families. We are definitely a family-oriented city. So I think the relationship with schools is very strong. And with the school board, it was pretty good in the past. But, the city doesn't dictate to the school board. They're their own entity. And These aren't city schools, they're county schools. So that's just the way the authority runs. The city can't dictate. We can certainly share our wishes and things. But our job is to live with what we have and embrace what we have and build up what we have by bonding with the principals, attending their events, supporting them, getting them volunteers and things like that. So I think that is strong.
Do I have my math right here? You said, you're almost 55 years old and you're a lifelong resident. Your parents moved to Plantation in the mid 1960s, somewhere around then?
67, when I was, or 60, maybe 66. I wasn't born yet. I know they were here when I was born.
This is getting a little far afield, but maybe not much. Tell us among your earliest memories of what that community looked like, Plantation, when you were a little boy.
I grew up in Fig Tree Park area, which is where just north of Heritage Park, up in the neighborhood. I played ball there. There was only 3 fields. They built PAL later on, Pop Travers Fields down near Seminole. The schools were all being built then. My father was on the school board. My father was a school board chairperson back in the day, so I was already around politics as a kid. There were a lot of open spaces. There were horses. Peters Road was only 2 lanes head on. So all the space where these other lanes and median are was open, and dirt bikes would go up and down and horses would go up and down. Where Heritage Park is now, they used to keep horses there, and there were foxes and everything. The Seminole Park, which is right near where my parents lived, right near Tropical, where I was the principal for 17 years, there were citrus groves there. And Mr. Peters lived on just north of Peters Road in East Tropical Way. And he was one of the early pioneers of the area. The Broward Mall was cow pastures and some citrus. Albertsons, which is now Publix, that was all pasture. I watched it all change and grow. Out where Hawks Landing was a farmer's market. They used to grow tomatoes out there. You pick them right where there's multi-million-dollar homes now. We would pick tomatoes. So I've watched it change. State Road 84 was our east-west corridor, and I watched 595 get built.
Right.
So
well, that's good history. That's really interesting and stuff. You talked about in your earlier comments, you talked about a growing transient population in Plantation. What's that attributable to?
Well, it's a function of people can work from home now. They can work in, their home base could be somewhere else, but they could be sitting here working on Plantation. So it's really freed up people. The pandemic freed up people to move around. I think the taxing structures that have changed around the nation has brought a lot more people in. My wife's been a realtor for many years, so we do keep our finger on the pulse of that. So transit just simply means when you have rentals, that's not necessarily, usually not long-term, especially when it's expensive rental and usually like a high-rise. That might be a starter thing when you're young, and then they want to transition out, and then they have to transition somewhere they can afford, and Plantation is on the higher end of affordability for single-family homes. So it is definitely more transient than I was used to. And I watched as a principal at Tropical, our mobility, we call it mobility rate, which is another word for transiency. Our mobility rate, how much churn, how many kids come in and out during the school year without your population changing, was down in the low 10 to the low teens. And it climbed and climbed, doubled and even tripled with just so many kids registering and withdrawing throughout the year, which proves their transiency. That's not solid for a child's education. And it's not solid to put down roots of people that necessarily care as much about their neighborhood or attend the city events and join the city sports and get invested in city politics. And, you would just want someone who cares deeply about the city. And I'm living proof here. My parents are still here. My brothers are still here. And 55 years later, I'm still here. And I want more residents like that. Nothing against people that come in short term. It's just that it's been literally the vast, vast, vast majority of new properties online and people coming in are short term.
What's your father's first name?
Lyle E. Anderson, but he goes by Tim.
Okay. And he was on the Broward County School Board in the 1960s.
I'm not sure it was late 60s, but it was definitely right at early 70s. I can remember being 4 or 5 years old and campaigning and being on the brochures and all that.
That's interesting. Okay.
He was the chair. He was the chair in his late 20s. He has a PhD from Florida State University. And then he became the chair of the Broward County School Board at a relatively young age.
Interesting. I don't want to monopolize the floor here. Dan, the floor is open for you if you want to ask a question.
No, I mean, I wanted to square that circle about the affordable housing and apartment building earlier, but no, I don't have any further questions. Steve, you already covered who are you supporting, or in this case, not supporting in the mayor's race. So that was kind of one of everyone's tops on my list.
Okay, Erik, it did not involve you, but it did involve the mayor. I do want to bring it up. It's something that voters may want to factor into their decision making. But there was an investigation by the Broward County Inspector General's office a couple of years ago that revealed violations of the campaign finance laws and possibly the open meeting laws involving the mayor. Well, this was discussed in our interview with Mayor Stoner and her opponent a little while ago. And it was Mayor Stoner's contention that this matter is still pending action by the Broward State Attorney's Office. They haven't made a decision, and it's been now about almost two years, 4 years altogether.
Well, it was election, so it was 4 years ago.
Right, correct, right. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm stunned. Well, go ahead and finish your question.
Well, my question was I guess my question is, I want to say this did not involve you, but you're a leader of this community. And you're going to be on the ballot. How, if at all, how should voters weigh this Inspector General's report and these findings when they vote?
That's tough. First, I wish more people would be invested to read these things and look at them. I feel like a lot of people are unaware, even though it's been out in media, it's been in the newspaper. You can look at the report, but I am disheartened that the state attorney hasn't, one way or another. How come it takes so long when what appears from the outside, the facts were there and they could dig for whatever else or subpoena for the rest and weigh in on a decision. So, but some of the things were decided. The Office of Inspector General did decide some things. but there's more things that are pending that I'm not privy to. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. How should voters weigh? They should have a question mark there, just like all of us do. When the authorities haven't weighed in, it's a question. It makes me question what's going on.
Okay. Yep.
It's like you said, it's ongoing. It's one of those things that make you go, but there were some campaign things that it's been about 4 years since I've read it, but the Office of Inspector General did have conclusive findings. It's just the state attorney then didn't. That's what's still pending.
Right.
So people can read the Office of Inspector General reports.
Right. Okay. Well, that's well said. We appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for answering our questions.
You're not going to go into traffic? Our other huge issue, one of my issues?
Well, you addressed it in the questionnaire. I mean, let's cover it very quickly. I mean,
we do have some good plans, but they take time, and it seems like the growth, and that's where I am wrestling with this, because I'm not anti-growth, but we're letting growth happen before we've let planning and infrastructure happen. They're not even happening simultaneous. The growth happens, and then now we need to widen the roads. Now we need to put express lanes onto the thing when we're jammed, and we will be jammed for a long time. But the Department of Transportation, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and other groups in our city, we've been working hard together. We've been meeting with Davie and Sunrise, and there are plans to put the express on and off to 595 from both Davie and Plantation. And actually, it's even further down. My main concern now is the University Drive in Pine Island, which both sides of that, from Davie up and from Plantation down. But they are planned to go further west, because that's going to continue to probably grow, and they'll need to do that there too. But Plantation's taking the matter into our own hands. We authorized a PD&E and engineering study to plan and design a bridge. I forget the avenue, but it's basically between University and Pine Island, and it'll be a bridge that'll let all those offices and those apartments that are right there go right on to State Road 84 and not have to go out to University or Pine Island and then back down. So same with coming to work and going home, they won't clog up those arteries right there, and it'll let them funnel right over. So we've already put, I think, $850,000 into the first steps, and we would look for that penny sales tax to help match and get that thing built.
Yeah, well, we remember when 595 was thought to be the solution to the east-west traffic problems in Broward County, and so I just wanted to add your thoughts, particularly somebody who's lived in the community your whole life. 595 it's obviously a mixed bag. I mean, it improved east-west traffic.
It did improve east-west traffic. It solved its problem, but the problem is it created the growth along it and everybody getting down to it. And they have to pass through Davie and Sunrise because we're the ones that border it. So you get all these places coming through us, and it comes to a head right at those places to actually get on. And then it backs up into our Peters Road intersections that backs up into our malls. And it'll back up all the way to Broward, the north end of the Broward Mall. That's at least a mile long. And that basically the whole box around Midtown gets choked. And I'm sure I know they have the same things at the Costco down there and all that.
Right.
So really, that 595, those things should have been coming a long time ago.
Yeah.
And those will take time to fix. And that ties into Daniel's earlier questions about growth. All those high rises should not have been allowed without more planning and more promises, or at least a pipeline and plan and timeline of when things were coming online. They should have been slowed down or not allowed to go as large, not given them waivers. And then it would have been the builder's choice then if they wanted to build smaller at that time or wait till roads are built and then go bigger. So I do have anybody can armchair quarterback backwards, but I think the past councils, which the mayor was the only sitting person on our council now that was on and approved. And when I say thousands, I'm not exaggerating. It's thousands of capacity, thousands of units.
Yeah, these high rises you're describing are generally where? Tell us where exactly.
A lot are around the Midtown, which is where all the traffic is. It's mostly around the Midtown. That's right. So which is University, Pine Island, Peters Road or 595, depending where you want to call it, all the way up to Cleary Boulevard. Yep. So I'm not, listen, some of these are great projects. American Express was defunct. They moved out, and to take an office building down and build a building back up about the same height, that's a net zero. And we don't want blight. We don't want no growth, but it's got to be responsible. Our infrastructure's got to handle it. Our roads have to handle it. Our sewer has to handle it. Our schools have to handle it. Our parks, police, fire. I think they got ahead of themselves, and the cart was before the horse. And that's what's been our job these last 4 years, to slow it down. And we've been doing well with our infrastructure, and we've been doing well with our police and fire. But I think the residents, now that they see it all coming out of the ground, they're blaming the current council for things that were approved 6, 7, 8, or many years ago. That's just now being completed. So,
I see. Yep.
And you said the only one of you that was even on the council back then is Lynn Stoner.
that's correct. She was on a few terms, so she was on through all of those approvals.
Okay.
I'm not trying to throw her under the bus, but she.
I understand.
I'm not, but she was on, and she was part of that. And look, it is armchair quarterback. If I was sitting there, honestly, I got to go back to, if you want to conclude it soon, my final thought is I've been asking for it. My colleagues have been asking for it for a while. When we were green, because 3 of us were new on the council 4 years ago, 3 new people at once. We need a comprehensive plan. I say it all these times as developers come and they tell us the traffic study. They tell us what the market needs. They tell us all the stuff instead of us deciding what we need, what vision we have for our city, what we want in what place. We should have it planned out proactively. The tail shouldn't be wagging the dog. We are a prime city in a prime location. We should know what we need and where we need it and when we need it built. And that's how we should be driving our approvals. And honestly, it just got approve, rubber stamp everything for a while. And now the chickens have come home to roost, and we have massive traffic and massive growth and a lot of unhappy residents. And a lot are starting to blame us, and it's our job to educate them that it wasn't us, and we're here to try to mitigate and solve.
Yeah. You've described it's not a happy story, but you've described it very well, and it's really a microcosm in many ways. Plantation, is a destination community for a lot of people because you have put the effort into aesthetics, landscaping, setbacks,
great trees, great parks.
Yeah, I mean,
park benches.
Right. It's not Plantation. It is not Pembroke Pines. It's not Tamarack. It has a slightly different look to it, and but it's threatened by all the problems and situations.
And when we're the ones that are desirable, we can be picky. That's my point. It's not the other way around where we're trying to clamor. They're coming here, knocking the doors on us, wanting to do things. We should have a plan in place of what we want, where we want it, and we've been asking for it for years, and it hasn't been done. So for years, we've been asking for basically close to 4 years since we got elected. So we need a master plan of where we're going.
Okay, Erik, thank you very much for the time this morning. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate your time. Thanks, guys.
Okay, see you later. Bye.